audible to all?
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. So, sir, should I start with the...
Yeah, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Deepthi Malhotra, Dean UGC Courses of Amritsar Group of Colleges. Welcome you all in today's webinar on agriculture and use of satellite drone imagery. First, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our keynote speaker of today's webinar, Dr. Indermohan Rawal ji, Ph.D. Professor and Ph.D Sciences, University Department, Northlands College, Ronge Saskatchewan, Canada. We welcome you, sir. I heartily welcome Madam Ragini Sharma ji, Director Finance of Amritsar Group of Colleges. Ma'am is keen in exploring nature and help us to grow with new techniques and innovations. She has set up bonsai garden with more than 300 bonsais. She introduced rainwater harvesting, hydroponics, organic farming, and many more techniques at AGC Agro Farm for students and nearby farmers. I welcome you, ma'am. I extend my welcome to respected principal, Dr. V.K. Banga ji, for always supporting us to introduce new techniques to the students for their development. I also welcome Dr. Manider Gill, Head of Agriculture Department, and once again, I welcome all the participants of today's webinar. Amritsar Group of Colleges has focused on bringing ideas, innovation to the life with precision in every task, accelerating the broad channel of possibilities in exploring nature and witnessing the miracles in agriculture fields. Our college continuously conducting webinars for the growth of students. First, I would like to request worthy principal, Dr. V.K. Banga ji, to kindly say a few words.
Thank you, Madam Dipti. Is my, I'm audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay, thank you. It's my extreme pleasure and honor to welcome Dr. Indermohan Singh Rawal, Professor and Head, Science University Department, Northlands College, Canada. So it's a great honor for us to have a great personality with us. Dr. Indermohan has very vast experience in the drone imagery and its application in agriculture sector. So I'm extremely honored and thankful to Dr. Indermohan Singh for sparing his valuable time and sharing his experience with our students. And secondly, I hope today our students will get a maximum benefit from this specialized lecture. As we know, in today's scenario, agriculture sector is totally shifting toward the precision farming. So, which means we are to be specific on everything, like on the product as well as on the diseases, everything to be very precisely to be taken care by the agriculture sector. And for this, I think satellite as well as drones are to be a maximum use for this precision farming. And I hope today deliberation definitely enlighten to all of us on the specialized technique. So as we all know, satellite imagery is basically images, or we can say we are tracking the Earth through the for a far high distance from the Earth, or might be from the space, or might be low Earth orbit satellites. So it's a very costly affair, and the images we get through this satellites are quite expensive. On the same side, with the coming of drones, now we are able to get images of the low lying objects through drones, and definitely it will help in identifying our crop nature as well as different diseases. So I think this is something drones and satellites. As we do electromagnetic spectrum, we all through that we can able to visible the things, or we can have a different analysis. So like through a satellites, we are go with the different EM spectrum, whereas in imaginary, we are going through a visible region through a drones. So it will be a great honor for us to have a great speaker with us, Dr. Indermohan Rawal. So he will definitely enlighten our students as well as our faculty in this today webinar on agriculture and use of satellite and drone imagery for the agriculture sector. I'm very happy to add here that our Honorable Director of Finance, Madam Ragini Sharma, whose untiring and consistent efforts are so that we are able to have a 7-acre, very wonderful organic farm with us. Our agriculture students are doing practical training in this organic farm, and there is a very specialized techniques they are using in that. It's all due to our Madam Ragini Sharma efforts, like they are doing a mushrooming cultivation, as well as like we are having a fishery farm, as well as we are having some organic various products there, as well as there is some bonsais and different ornamental plants gardens, and number of gardens are there, as well as a botanical garden there, so herbal garden. So all efforts we are doing regularly, and this is all due to our Honorable Madam Ragini Sharma. So he is spending his whole time with their agro farm, and definitely today lecture will add more in that, and definitely we will take advantage from Dr. Indermohan Rawal. So once again, I welcome again, and I feel gratitude toward Dr. Indermohan Singh. Thank you all of you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We have been living in the age of satellite for more than half of the century now. And the ways in which those eyes in the sky are helping people in daily lives in a very significant way. Drones these days have revolutionized agriculture by offering farmers major cost saving and enhanced efficiency more profitably and more reliably. To get all the details, I humbly request the today's resource person, Dr. Indermohan Rawal ji, to please enlighten our students with these techniques. So please, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's start with this topic, agriculture and use of satellite and drone imagery. Can you guys hear me correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Okay, so as far as myself is concerned, you guys already know that I am working as prof in the University Department, Northlands College in Ronge. I'm also faculty member for both our provincial universities. We have University of Saskatchewan, which is based in Saskatoon, and the provincial capital is Regina, and we have the second university, which is University of Regina over there. So I'm faculty member for both of them. Now, many of the people who are listening me today, they may be wondering, where is this place La Ronge? Because all I know is that most of the people, they know about the Toronto, Vancouver, they know about in India about Toronto, Vancouver, or the maximum Montreal, right? But where is this place La Ronge? Okay, so I am in the middle of the country because this is where Saskatchewan is. Let me highlight. So this is where we are. Okay, this is Saskatchewan. So Vancouver is this way, Toronto is this way. So in the middle of the country. Okay, and I'm pretty much up in the north. Now, a lot of changes have actually happened in the higher education in the last few years over here. And I think that will help students to understand how the things are changing here. Okay, before we actually move into our topic, I have a few slides and I would like to make everybody familiar with those changes. The challenge that we have as a nation is that we have a really vast territory. So if you look over, compare, like I introduced this slide, this image, which compares the area of India with the Canada. So Canada is 3 times bigger than India. The population, we all know, is very less, and it is so widespread if you ignore the highly populated urban centers of GTA, Toronto area, or the Vancouver side. Okay, so the challenge was how to basically reach out to all these masses that are spread over this vast land. Okay, so thrust came from the government for push towards off-campus localized academic centers of excellence. Okay, in which the approach was to use the existing infrastructure, which was in the form of the colleges, and because the colleges have much more wider presence all across the province, and so use that infrastructure to deliver these classes to the communities, and so that people can take on the higher education whilst they stay in their home community. Now, in general, there are basically three types of colleges. If we look in the Saskatchewan, I'm talking more about Saskatchewan because I'm here, and the health and education, they're provincial subjects. So we have federated colleges. Federated colleges are actually part of, academically integrated with any of these two universities, but they are legally and financially independent. So they have different governing bodies. Then comes affiliated colleges. So affiliated colleges, they are independent, academically not integrated with the university. Okay, they are affiliated but not integrated. So there's a difference. And then comes the regional colleges. Now, regional colleges have the most widespread presence. So here is the province map, and it is also showing the territory that each regional college has. So when these colleges were actually developed, the idea was to cater to the labor demand for that is coming out of that particular geographical area, because industry is different in different areas. So to cater to the labor demands of that area, the regional colleges were developed. So they're widespread, covering the whole province. And if you look at the area that we have actually the biggest area right on the top, Northlands College. Okay, we got three main campuses. La Ronge is the main campus. Creighton on the east side right here is another campus. Buffalo Narrows on the west side is the other campus. In addition to that, there are all these communities which are in this adjoining map, which we serve. Okay, so if you want a quick idea of how big this area is, think of two big states in India, like maybe J&K and Himachal. So combine them together. So that's the area that we are serving, only our college. So very big area. So like the way I said, the push came, and these colleges, they were developed into the localized centers of excellence for university education. So that's how we started having these university classes in the north. Now, the other thing is that when we talk of these regional colleges, they are quite independent, unlike when we see in India, where you have a college, government college for men in anywhere, maybe Chandigarh, or government college for women in Chandigarh. They are tied to Punjab University. They're integrated with them, right? But here, the colleges are independent in the sense that for any degree, they can go with any university, or they can even have a blended model where the students who are in that college, they can take courses from both universities, both provincial universities, and eventually they will get degree from that university from where they have more than 50% of the credit work. So a lot of flexibility is there. So with that background, let's now talk about our main topic, the agriculture in Canada. Now, in Canada, agriculture is an important industry, acting as an important sector of the economy. And as of 2018, there were about 269,000 jobs in farming. Among Canada's top agriculture products are canola. Everybody is familiar with the canola oil, and we are the top producers of that. Cattle and calves, beef and whale, vegetables and poultry. So those are the main products. Canadian companies, they export crops, meat, maple syrup, and many other products, with Canada being a top exporter of agricultural products in the world. And these exports, they were worth more than $60 billion in 2016. So it's a very big sector. The interesting thing is that only a small fraction, 7% of Canada's land area is suitable for farming. Okay, because a lot of the land which is on the north, even where I am, it's all bush area, it's all forests and lakes. Okay, so only a small fraction, which as we move to the south, is like the way it's saying 7% of the total land mass is suitable for farming. And most of this land is in Western Canada. And I am in the Western Canada. So this is slide is trying to tell us which agriculture industry is dominant in which province. So if we look over here, let me zoom this up a little bit. So Saskatchewan, you can see over here, you have basically the grain and oil seeds along with the cattle. So that's a Saskatchewan. Manitoba is again grain and oil seeds with the hogs. Okay, Ontario is dairy and grain and oil seeds. Quebec is dairy again with hogs, right? So like that, it's widespread, different sectors, agriculture sectors in different provinces. So if we look at how much area of each province is under the agriculture, then it's a very interesting scenario. You can see over here the area that Saskatchewan has. So this is the area which is I'm pointing out right now. That's Saskatchewan. But if you look over here, the total land mass that Saskatchewan has, which is under agriculture, is 42.4%. So quite a considerable area of the land mass is under the agriculture. On the other hand, the only other province that nears to Saskatchewan is PEI. PEI is Prince Edward Island, and 42.3% area of that. But if we go back to the original map, you will see that PEI itself is a very small province. So PEI is right here, Prince Edward Island. Okay, so very small province, that one right there, compared to the Saskatchewan. So Saskatchewan is very big. And when we talk of the Western Canada, we are talking usually of the Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and British Columbia. So those are the provinces that constitute the Western Canada. Okay, and if you look at the area again of these provinces have considerable area under agriculture, with Saskatchewan being the maximum, 42.4%, Alberta 31.9%, Manitoba 13.2%. Okay. Just give me a second here. So most of Canada's crop farming takes place in the prairie provinces. So these provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, they're also known as prairie provinces. Alberta has the most beef cattle operations of any province. Saskatchewan produces the most durum, wheat, canola, and lentils. Manitoba has the most pig farms and is the second in potato production. In BC, British Columbia, farmers produce large amounts of fruit, vegetables, aquaculture products, eggs and poultry and meat. BC also has the largest number of grape growers. So mainly BC is famous for the fruits. Ontario has the most poultry farms of any province. Quebec, largest number of dairy farms and cows. Atlantic Canada, which is the east side where I've already pointed out that Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia, all those provinces are, that's Atlantic Canada. So in Atlantic Canada, farming is split equally between crops and livestock, including aquaculture. Potatoes are a popular crop in the region. But crop production, if we want to see out of this whole area, how much area is coming under crop production? Crop production is taking up about 54.6% of the total area that is under agriculture, which is a significant area. And then comes the livestock farming, which is 31.2%. So they have long been the backbone of Canada's agriculture industry, together accounting for 85.8% of all farm area. And when I say crop production, this is mainly in these three prairie provinces that we have, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Now, historically, the total number of census farms in Canada, they began to decline after 1941. followed by the accelerating urbanization in the 1950s. We saw the largest 5-year decline on record. That was in 1956 to 1961, and the number of farms fell by 16.4%. The total farm area reached a high in 1966 to about 174.1 million acres. And in 2011 was 160.2 million acres. But the interesting thing that we notice is that despite the overall decrease in farms and area, the average size of farms is increasing. And that is very interesting. As the Canadian agricultural sector continues to restructure, as many farms expand in scale of operation, consolidate, draw on technological innovations to enhance productivity and augment their sales. So this size increase, which is happening all across the Canada, this is mainly because of the precision farming, the latest technologies that are there that we are able to use on ground. That is helping the producers to increase the area. They can manage the more area. The challenges, we got a lot of challenges when we look at the Canadian agriculture. Big farms with average farm size, which is more than 700 acres in Canada, while in US it is approximately 444 acres. So the average farm size that we have is bigger than what the average farm size, is in states. Now, this all translates to big input costs, increasing the use of innovative approaches of precision farming to reduce the costs, because input costs are really high. We have a farm of, we own a farm of 1,000 acres, out of which 550 acres is cultivated. And my input costs are about close to more than $100,000, okay? So a lot of money involved in this, mostly rain-fed. So emphasis on using soil conservation methods like no or zero till. So that is also a challenge because it's mostly rain-fed. This year we had one of the biggest droughts, if you guys don't know. Short growing season, May to September, because prairie provinces are actually flat. And we are very much prone to the weather that is coming from the pole. So we have a very short growing season. The winters are very severe, and the growing season is from May to September. And after that, everything is covered in snow. Drastic weather changes, again, because of our proximity, no mountain cover or anything protecting us from the north. The winds which are coming from the Arctic Circle, they suddenly change the temperatures drastically. We see temperature fluctuations more than 15 degrees Celsius in 2 days, and that's not rare, that's quite common. So that all has very stressful effect on the crops. Shortage of labor, owing to seasonal nature of agricultural operations, because like the way I already said, there is a very short growing season going from May to September. The people are not interested in going into the agriculture because it's not throughout the year, right? It's a seasonal employment. So shortage of labor is there owing to the seasonal nature of agricultural operations. 55,000 temporary foreign workers were employed in Canadian agriculture in 2018. So we do take the services of a lot of foreign labor. Now let's talk about the use of satellite and drone imagery. Now, two main areas where we see a lot of utility of this satellite or drone imagery is crop scouting, precision farming, okay? And that really helps in a big way because of the same reason that I pointed out earlier, that we have really, really big farms. Now, crop scouting, satellite and drone imagery makes it possible to measure the plant health. And that's what we'll look at in detail as we move in this presentation. It helps to identify crop stress and rapidly eliminates the stress to the field. There are different algorithms that are based on the latest technologies like NDVI, which along with the VARI, that enable us to assess the plant health and spot the variability in minutes and make it easier to spot the crop stress. Precision farming, facilitated again by satellite and drone imagery. Actually, when I say precision farming, what comes to my mind is that what we are doing with the satellite and drone imagery is actually the second level of precision farming. Okay, the first level of precision farming we already have, in the sense that when we are seeding and using the fertilizers, we are using custom blends. Okay, for example, if I'm going with the oats for a year, we know what are the oats nutritional requirements. So we make a custom blend which goes at the time of seeding, so which we call as a seed row blend. So there are custom blends made for every crop down to the variety level. So that's precision farming is right there. You are adding the sulfur, you're adding the phosphorus, you're adding the nitrogen only to what is required. You're not exceeding. Okay, so that is the first level of precision farming, which is already there. Now we are moving over to the level. We are looking at satellite and drone imagery. We're still in this. We have made advances, but still it's being developed in many areas. So precision farming facilitated by satellite and drone imagery enables farmers to maximize the use of resources, like the way I explained, reduces the costs by using differential application of resources across a field. So what precision farming does is that the drone imagery, does when we're talking about using the drone imagery in precision farming is that we are creating these maps, which are either NDVI maps or using that algorithm, or vary, or the false NDVI, different algorithms. And we'll talk about those. And what they're doing at the end of the day is they're creating shape files, which are the image files, similar to, let me show the next slide, similar to something like this. Okay, and these image maps are then created into the shape file, and these shape files are then fed into these modern machinery that we have. So if we have a sprayer, and sprayer has the capability to read these shape files, then sprayer will go into the field and will spray, will do a differential spray rather than a uniform spray all across the field. So we call this as these maps as prescription maps also, because they tell where more spray needs to go rather than using the resources uniformly all across. Now, in drone imagery, different commonly used algorithms, they are NDVI, vary, and false NDVI, especially if we are talking about the agriculture. Plant health algorithms such as NDVI and vary, they compare the proportions of light captured across different bands, red, green, blue, and sometimes near infrared. Maps with plant health algorithms, just like the one we see in this slide, they are then assigned colors based on those numerical values, which makes it easy to identify the variance between the healthy and unhealthy areas. Now, before we actually talk about these different algorithms, okay, let's talk about the cameras, because if we are taking the image, what we need is a camera. So what sort of cameras go with what sort of imagery? That is very precise. So let's first talk about the RGB cameras. The images from cameras that capture red, blue light. So RGB cameras are our normal cameras that we have in the cell phones at that. So images that are coming from these cameras that capture red, green, and blue light, they are used for the vary algorithm, okay, to assess the plant health. The RGB cameras are standard cameras, like the way I mentioned, that come with any drone. Spectral range for the RGB camera is 425 to 675 nm. And with peak spectral values are where the RGB camera for the blue is 455 nm, for the green it's 535, for the red it's 600 nm. Now, there are some benefits of the RGB camera. The RGB camera capture images similar to what we see with the human eye, the way I explained. These are the cameras that we have in our cell phones, which means that it is more familiar and easier to interpret even without the use of plant health algorithms. So if you see the image, it gives you an idea. But when you were looking at very vast land, right, like I'm talking about 1,000 acres, then a single image will not tell you the whole story. excuse me, then you need to have these images processed using particular algorithms. Now, what are the drawbacks of the RGB camera? Since RGB camera is a general purpose camera, they're not specifically designed for agriculture. One of the drawbacks is that they can only be used to determine the relative plant health within the same map. Okay, this means that if you fly half of your field one and the other half the next, you won't get a useful reading of the crop stress. So they are good to give you information at any particular point of time, but you cannot see the progression if you want to see the progress at different times. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say over here, that if you fly half of your field one day and the other half the next, you won't get a useful reading of crop stress. And this is because the amount of sunlight, the cloud cover, it needs to remain constant throughout the duration of the drone flight to attribute the relative data analysis. And because these things change on daily basis, so if we are using the RGB camera, it doesn't provide the consistency to analyze the images which are taken at different times. On the other hand, if we look at the traditional formula for NDVI, that compares the near infrared and red lights. It is great for measuring healthy green vegetation over a wide range of conditions. The other type of cameras, other than the RGB, are the near infrared cameras, and these are the ones that are used in the NDVI, about which I mentioned too. So NDVI algorithm require use of near infrared cameras. Now, there are two main types of NIR cameras as well. One are modified RGB cameras. So you take the RGB camera, you modify it, you put the appropriate shutter lenses. They are fitted with a filter to capture some combination of near infrared, red, green, and blue light, depending on the model. And then there are specifically those cameras that are designed for the NIR, and they are multispectral cameras. So multispectral cameras capture red, green, and near infrared light. And over here, you can see that the spectral band for multispectral cameras, what is the range for that? Okay. Now, the benefits of modified or RGB multispectral cameras, what are their benefits? We talked about the benefits of the red, green, and blue cameras. So now let's talk about these modified RGB or multispectral. Now, one major benefit to modified RGB and multispectral cameras are their ability to be calibrated with incident light sensors, make it possible to compare absolute data over time. This is the major benefit that we have using the infrared, the near infrared images, and using those for the NDVI algorithm, because we can see how the crop is progressing at different times throughout the growth period, which is not possible with the images that we are taking with the RGB. So this means that you can compare different map data over time, despite changes in sunshine and cloud cover from day to day or week to week. Now, what are the drawbacks of these modified RGB or multispectral cameras? RGB cameras modified with NIR filters, with multispectral cameras, they deliver high performance and accurate NDVI imaging, but they require substantially higher investment than standard RGB camera. Quality NIR capable cameras, they can cost anywhere from $1,200 on the lower end to $7,000 on to the higher end. So a lot of investment is there if you're looking at going for the near infrared images and you're interested in the NDVI algorithm. So now let's talk about the algorithms with that background information about the cameras. Now, the commonly used algorithms are VARY. The VARY stands for Visible Atmospherically Resistant Index. This was designed and tested to work with the RGB sensors, and that's why we're using the RGB images with this sort of algorithm. And it is a good measure of plant health using the visible light spectrum. So we are only using the visible light spectrum and the images coming out of that RGB camera for this algorithm. Now, VARY algorithm uses the color correction to minimize the reflection, scattering, and other atmospheric effects to better estimate the fraction of healthy vegetation in an area. It helps to show how green a plant is in comparison to others, so you can approximate the relative plant health and vigor. In short, we can say vary is a measure of how green an image is. Okay. Now, it is not intended substitute for AR camera because it has limitations, and I've already talked about those, but it can provide useful insight when working with non-NDVI imagery. The RGB images with the vary algorithm applied, they make it possible to detect areas of crop stress in a field. So they're good if we want to see how the crop is at any particular point of time. So good for that very time. Okay, maybe if we run it a week after, we have a different scenario. Okay, so very mathematical formula compares the value of green, red, and blue light, estimate the crop health, and over here you can see the formula which is used in the very algorithm. Now, many growers are only seeking to understand the relative plant health of their fields, and that's when RGB imagery with the very algorithm provides this useful information, which is related to variance at a single point in time, can be a valuable tool to help farmers, identify stress and generate variable prescription map. Like the way I said, if we're trying to look at the crop at any particular time, then vary is quite good. Another commonly used algorithm is the false NDVI. False NDVI, it's not recommended, and I will go when we'll go through this slide, then that will make sense why it is not recommended. Now, the term false NDVI refers to the NDVI algorithm applied to RGB imagery. So what we're doing is we are using those images that were taken with a normal camera, but we're using the algorithm which is for the NDVI. Okay, it's called false NDVI. Now, while some growers may find false NDVI useful, it is not a good practice to apply NDVI to RGB imagery because the algorithm is not designed for that purpose. Because if you look at the algorithm for NDVI, it takes into account the infrared radiation which is getting reflected from the plant. And because the images, they don't have that detail, so if we are applying that algorithm, okay, to the images that we have taken with the RGB cameras, we are certainly not getting the right information. So that this method has a smaller dynamic range compared to the true NDVI, meaning that it is less sensitive to variation in plant biomass and or stress. False NDVI is also not able to measure and separate near infrared and red light for a truly accurate reading. So that's another reason why the false NDVI is not good. The only real attraction of false NDVI is that it's a cheap to build. It can be generated based on the RGB imagery that we already talked about, the fact that it is out of the normal cameras, taken from any normal camera, which most drones come equipped. The use of false NDVI, the reporting of inaccurate data, and I have a slide that will actually show how false and compares with the real NDVI, why it's not good. So it will make more sense for you. Let's talk about the NDVI. So NDVI is the third thing, out of the commonly used algorithms. This is the other algorithm, and in fact, this is the most widely used algorithm. Now, NDVI stands for the Normalized Differentiative Index, and this is the commonly used remote sensing algorithm intended to measure plants' overall health, and it has been the standard for understanding plant health in the agriculture industry since its introduction in 1970s, mainly because of the accuracy of results. So results are very accurate, even if you compare it with the and if I talk about the false NDVI, that doesn't stand anywhere even close to it. Okay, vary is close to it, but not as precise as NDVI. Plant values normally range from 0.1 to nearly 1. With the higher the NDVI value, the greater the plant density and health. And over here, you can see how the different NDVI values are. So if we are looking at and the value is less than 0, it indicates an inanimate or dead material. Let me zoom this up. Okay, range of NDVI value where we see 0 to 0.33 indicates unhealthy plant material. The bush area where you have a lot of barren land. 0.33 to 0.66 is the index, which is there, which is what we see for the healthy plant material. Greater than 0.66, very healthy plant material, and you will see that will show in the case study. Okay, so so those are the general ranges that NDVI has. Now, but what basically NDVI is? Now, NDVI is calculated from the visible and near infrared light reflected by vegetation. So we are using both the visible spectrum as well as the infrared spectrum. Now, in plants, what is happening? The chlorophyll pigment in a healthy plant absorbs most of the visible red light, okay, and it reflects the green light. That's why the plants appear green to us. They are absorbing the visible red light. On the other hand, the cell structures of the plant, they reflect most of near infrared light. So while the chlorophyll is absorbing the red light, the cell structures, they are reflecting the near infrared, most of the near infrared light. So a high photosynthetic activity is associated with, when it is associated with dense vegetation, what we have is fewer reflectance in the red band, because more of this red band is getting absorbed because of dense vegetation and high photosynthetic activity. But at the same time, there is high reflectance in the near infrared band. So something what we see over here in the far end. In healthy leaf, near infrared band is reflected a lot. Okay, red light is getting absorbed, very less reflection. Now, what happens in the unhealthy plant? There is not only decline in the reflectance of near infrared band, reflectance in the red band is so much higher, owing to significant decrease in the absorbance. And if we see the next slide, it will make much more sense over here. So you can see the comparison, how it shows up in a healthy plant, how it goes in an unhealthy plant. So in a healthy plant, we're looking at the fact that you have about 50% of the near infrared light is getting reflected. On the other hand, only 8% of the red light is getting reflected. But if we look at unhealthy plant, there is not only decline in the near infrared light that is getting reflected, so that decreases from 50 to 40%, we can say in one particular case, while on the other hand, the red light that is getting reflected is close to 30%. So there is a remarkable increase in that. And it is this variation that we are using to, for the NDVI algorithm, and that algorithm is right there in the slide. So NDVI is equal to NIR plus visible divided with NIR minus visible. So fraction of reflected light needs to be calculated, need to know the amount of incident light. The values are between -1 and 1. The healthy vegetation, like the way I said in the previous slide, that falls between 0.2 and 0.8. Now, growers, agronomists, and drone service providers who are seeking to understand the comparative plant health data over time may wish to use NDVI imagery captured using RGB cameras that are modified with NIR filters, or cameras that are multispectral. Because like the way I said, that if we want to see the plant health over time, then this is the only way, NDVI. These cameras are specifically designed for agriculture needs. This means that any NDVI image produced, they are better suited to analyze and detect the smallest amount of crop stress by reading the near infrared light and picking up on any reflections from the plant. It can identify crop issues a few days earlier than with the standard RGB sensor. And the reason for that is that plants respond to the near infrared band much earlier than to the visible band. So that is one reason, another reason which makes NDVI superior over the Very, because the stress appears early in the NDVI imagery compared to the Very. So here we're looking at how the things compare. So the question then comes, what type of plant health algorithm should I use? Because we talked about vary, we talked about false NDVI, and then we talked about the NDVI. So this is a very good slide in the sense that it is trying to show us how things compare. So we're looking at the RGB image, which is taken from a field, and you can see where we have the dense vegetation that is circled. And if we create the false NDVI, what sort of image we get out of that? On the other hand, how the image appears if we create the NDVI image using the NIR images that we have taken with those cameras. Now, if you compare these two images, the false NDVI and the NDVI, you can see the results are actually totally opposite. What we see in the NDVI as dark green is actually showing up as red in the false NDVI. Okay, so which is actually opposite to what it should be, because dark green tells us that the vegetation is dense over there, but red is usually pointing out something is wrong. So the results are not accurate. The other thing is that if you notice, the details are much more in the NDVI image compared to the false NDVI, right? You can see over here that you have more stressed area, but that stressed area is not as clear in the false NDVI. So that's why false NDVI is not used, because it actually creates a false picture of what actually the reality is. Now, plants react to the stress in near infrared bands much earlier, like the way I mentioned, and more drastically than in the visible band of light that we see. So growers want to see the stress soon as possible, so they can get out on the field and figure out a solution. And that is another reason which makes the NDVI more valuable than the vary. While false NDVI is not able to measure and separate near infrared and red light for a truly accurate reading. And on the other hand, if we talk about the NDVI, that has a variety of uses, like the way I mentioned, with its most valuable being able to accurately measure the crop health despite changing weather conditions. And this means you can, like the way I mentioned, you can compare different NDVI map data over time, even with when we see changes in the sunshine and cloud coverage from day to day or week to week basis. And this is the capability which is important for agronomists who are working with farmers throughout the season. Okay. So that is the background detail about what the NDVI or different algorithms are. And now we'll move over to the next part of our presentation, the NDVI values and how they change with the crop staging in case of canola, the case study. Now, this case study actually comes out of our field, our personal fields. So we are looking at this, this is the field area. And over here, if you look at the agricultural land, it is divided into quarters or parcels. We call each of these squares pieces as quarter or parcel. And each of this piece is close to 150 acres. It's 1/2 mile by 1/2 mile. And those numbers that you see over here, like NW01, 48, 04, W3, those are the legal land descriptions of each parcel. So what we have is about 6 parcel, which goes to close to 1,000 acres. Here is a plant body, a water body in there. So this is a satellite image of the whole farm. The dark area which you see is the dense vegetation owing to the trees or bushes present, and same over here in some other areas. So there's a lot of bush area that needs to be cleared. Okay, and so in this presentation, is how the NDVI values, they change in NW6, which is this field, compared with NE01. I thought these two are very good for the reason that there was 10 days seeding difference between these two fields. NW6 got seeded, this data coming, by the way, from 2020. We had canola in there. So NW06 got seeded early, 10 days early, and we got delayed in seeding the rest of all these parcels, because then we had rains and rains were just not stopping. So we lost about 10 days because of the weather conditions, and that delayed the seeding in all other 5 quarters. And then when we started looking at the NDVI data, okay, and how that is going with the plant growth, that was very interesting. And you guys will see the correlation of that. How the NDVI images is that as a grower, I have the access to the satellite data. The company buying the required, like the seed, fertilizer, and all that stuff. They are really big companies. So they have tied up with the satellite people, and they provide us this satellite imagery. So we get satellite imagery on weekly basis. So what I did was I went to the farm on the weekly basis, took the pictures with the usual camera that we have on the cell phones, okay? And then when I was getting the satellite image, I tried to make correlation how the things are going. What are the NDVI values in the image and how they're correlating with the actual when I was there. So that is very interesting. So now let's go and divulge into more detail about all this. So this is our NE1, and this is NE1. And the picture that you see, actually this is a video. I'll play this video. I was standing right here. This is the road. I was standing right here. This green strip is actually the bush, the tree area a little bit. And so this is the video that I made, and that dates to July 15th. Let me start this video. Interesting. Some reason. Okay. So that is a tree line that I was pointing out in the map. So the plants at this on July 15th, they were mostly at 3 to 4 leaf stage, with some of them going into the bolting stage. And so this is the SAT image coming from July 16th. So I was there on July 15th. The images that I got, they were on July 16th, and then the week after July 21st. Now, what is over here? This is the NDVI image, and this is the natural vegetation image for the whole quarter. Okay, so what do we see over here? These are the dark, like the way dense vegetation over here because of the trees. Okay, and other than this is all rest is the crop area. Now you can see clearly over here that from that video, you guys notice that like the way I mentioned that plants were mainly in 2 to 3 leaf stage, some entering the bolting phase. Okay, and the NDVI general, the average NDVI of the farm, this particular field was 0.53. Okay, when we move into the July 21st, which is by the time there was more plant mass has increased, the bolting was there, and there was crop canopy has developed. You can see that even in the natural vegetation image, there is much more greener area. Okay, this is less green, this is more green. So that is an image similar to the RGB. So that is an RGB image actually, the satellite RGB image. And this is the NDVI image. Now you can see how the red is. So this red area is going with this area, which is having less plant density when the plants are at 2 or 3 leaf stage. While this is green, so this is going with this where we see the green. Okay. Now July 21st, this NDVI, the average NDVI increased from 0.53 to 0.59, owing to the increase in biomass as a result of bolting and subsequent plant growth, more branching and all that stuff. Okay, so this was an NE1. Now this was NW6, the field just the other side of the road. I don't know why these are not playing. Okay, but anyway, when I was there on July 15th, and what I noticed was that this field was showing about 40 to 50% bloom on July 15th. Okay. All right, so here we go. So these are the SAT images going with that NW6. So we can see over here that in this field, we have much more greener. The whole field is much more greener on July 16th than on July 21st. Okay. If you look at the NDVI values on July 16th, the average NDVI value was 0.74. Higher NDVI values on second, in this image, this one, the NDVI value was 0.66. Okay, so it has decreased from 0.74 to 0.66, and that's mainly because of the flowering intensity. So as the flowering intensity was increasing, what we noticed that the NDVI index was actually the average value was coming down. Now we go back to NE1, July 27th, and so by the time when I was there on July 27th, this was showing the maximum flowering. And then August 5th, I was again there. And at that time, I noticed there was fruiting or pod development had set in. So now what we'll see in the next slide is that how the NDVI or the natural vegetation image is changing as we move from flowering to the fruiting stage, where we see more of the pod development taking place. Okay, so upper row, July 27th is the actual RGB image that I took with my cell phone. This one right here, and this is August 5th for the NE1. And these ones are July 29th. This is July 29th images coming from the satellite, and these are August 5th images coming from the satellite. Now, average NDVI was 0.61 on July 29th. If we're looking at this form, this picture, okay, and which went to actually 0.68, from 0.61 to 0.68 between July 29th to August 5th. And which goes in line with the fact that blooming was maximum, and by the time we were in August 5th, like the way I said, the pod development had started. And so the blooming was less, and with more pod development, the NDVI values were again on the rise. And that's what we noticed, more green intensity in the lower image than in the upper image. NW6, July 27th, it was the full bloom around 24th, which I estimated looking from the NDVI values that this would have bloomed maximum around July 24th, with the final days of full bloom on July 27th. Here's that field again, NW6 on July 27th. Full. on August 5th. So we can see here now that the blooming is over and we are into the fruiting. All right, so now let's see how do we see the NDVI or natural vegetation images that go with this. So the first video was when we saw the blooming, flowering intensity was towards the decline, and the second video was where everybody saw how the flowering was over and we were into the pod development. Fruiting was there. So NDVI July 29th was 0.68 when the flowering intensity was towards the decline. And on August 5th, the average NDVI was 0.78, flowering completely over with plants in the fruiting stage. And that goes in line with more greenery that we see in the lower image. NE1, August 14th. And this is NE1 on August. So how do we see the variation in the natural vegetation image or the NDVI when we look at August 13th and August 18th? So August 13th NDVI, the average NDVI that we see in this map, that was 0.78, fruiting complete with immature green pods at that level, at that time. And on August 18th, NDVI was 0.72. So that was the other thing that we noticed, that as the pods start maturing, the NDVI starts coming down. Okay, so NDVI was maximum when the pods are immature and green, and when as the maturity sets in, the NDVI starts declining. So August 18, pod maturity sets in, and NDVI comes down from 0.78 to 0.72. Now, when we go to NW6, this is how the things were in NW6 on August 15th. With fruiting and pod growth complete. And this is how the things were on August 20th, that the pod maturity had started. You can see over here the change in the color of the crop. It's not green anymore as it was in the previous video. And the same thing correlates over here. If we look over here, the natural vegetation image and the NDVI. So NDVI on August 13th was 0.78. And like the way I mentioned, the fruiting and pod development was complete by that time, but the pods were immature. So it was lush green at that time. And then on August 18th, NDVI dropped down to 0.74 with the pod maturity actually setting in. And you can see that that also translates to slight change in the green vegetation cover image that we have, the SAT image. Okay, but another thing that everybody can notice over here is that how the correlation is if we look at a natural image, a picture taken with a camera compared to the green natural vegetation image coming from the satellite. This is not a good indication, right? Because the day, you can see on August 13th, the day was quite clear. So the light was much more, okay? And giving a better picture of the crop. But on this day, it was much more cloudy. So although it appears more, in this image, more green, but actually it's not that green. And that gets verified in this picture when we compare these two. So that's why when we were going through that, the the RGB images. I mentioned that RGB images are good to analyze, give you an idea of the field at any particular point of time, but not good when we are comparing fields at different times because of the changes in the sunlight and the cloud coverage and all of that. So now going back to NE1, August 29th, we can see over here that the pod maturity was progressing. And then over to September 8th, and that's when we see the crop is mature quite a lot. And the same thing is happening here when we look at August 28th and September 4th. And there's another interesting thing over here. You see very conspicuous white cover boundary in natural vegetation image. That is actually the cloud. Okay, so many times when the satellite is taking the image, you are hitting the cloud, and that's how it shows up. Now, NDVI for August 28th was 0.56, but that is the average value of NDVI for this image. But you can clearly see that this red area is actually due to the cloud coverage, which we see over here. Because when we go to September 4, there is no cloud coverage in that image, okay? And correspondingly, we don't see any red area in the September 4th image. So the reduction in the NDVI, the average value that we see 0.56 was mainly because of the cloud coverage over that field. And the September 4th is actually showing 0.69 going to the crop maturity. So actually, if there hadn't been any cloud, I would anticipate the NDVI value for August 28th would be somewhere around 0.7 something. So NW6, August 29th, and what we see is the pod maturity progressing. You can see that crop has matured quite a lot. September 8th. Crop is almost completely mature, except for the few patches that we see. So now how do things go? Again, we'll see that, like the way I said, as the maturity is setting in, the NDVI is going down. So NDVI August 28th was 0.69 when pod maturity was progressing. And in September 4th, it was 0.6 when we see that lot of crop has actually matured. NE1 on September 26th. So this was the time when swathing was done. So we have cut the crop. The plants are there in straight lines. The swathing has been done. So how does now that correlate with the NDVI value? So now NDVI values, and you can see how actually the natural vegetation image has also changed. Okay, the color of that is corresponding with the picture that you see. And the NDVI values come straight down to 0.31 now, which goes in line with what usually the NDVI values are when you have a bare land with the bushes. We go to NW6, September 26th, again, the same scenario with the swathing done in that field as well. And again, if we look at the September 29th value, NDVI value for this field, it was 0.29, similar to or closer to what we saw in the NE1. So this slide is trying to show up all that we looked in the last few slides. So anyone, the dates, July 16th, the NDVI value was 0.53. The growth stage was 3 to 4 leaf stage. July 21st, NDVI value increasing from 0.53 to 0.59, owing to the increasing plant biomass and the bolting. The plants were at the bolting stage. July 29th, NDVI values goes further to 0.61. Flowering was maximum. August 5th, 0.68. Fruiting is setting in. August 13th, 0.78. Fruiting maximum. And then we start the NDVI values declining from August 18th onwards, owing to the pod maturity setting in. Then it was obviously out of the range when we are hitting 0.72 to 0.56, and that was due to the cloud coverage. September 4th, we have 0.69 when we see the mature crop. September 29th, we have 0.31 when we see that swathing that was there. So except for this when we see a sudden drop, and I'll know was because of the cloud coverage. In general, there is a trend that we can see. Okay. In NW6, these are the values. Now, NW6 actually gave us a very good understanding of NDVI values in the later stages of plant growth. Because here we see when we started on July 16th, because this field was seeded earlier, it was already at 40 to 50% bloom, and the NDVI value was 0.74. While on the other hand, when we look at on July 16th at NE1, it was basically at 3-4 leaf stage. July 21st, the NDVI values goes to 0.66, so flowering intensity increasing. So as the flowering intensity increased, we see the NDVI value going down. Okay, July 29th, NDVI value 0.68, flowering intensity decreasing. So with the flowering intensity decreasing, more fruiting coming into picture, again NDVI starts. So 0.68 fruiting stage, 0.78 fruiting complete, 0.74 when the pod maturity sets in, 0.69 as the pod maturity is progressing, 0.6 with the pods mature, and going to 0.29 when the swathing was done. So that was the data. Now, when analyzing NDVI images, what are the important things anybody needs to have in mind or keep in mind? When analyzing NDVI images, one needs to be careful of clear-cut area. So as you saw in all those images, you never see a clear-cut area like the way over here. Here you can see a very clear-cut area. The red area is clearly demarked from the green area in the image that is on the right side. This is not how usually the things are, okay? It's usually how the things are in the left image, and you would have noticed that the same in all the images that I have shown. So when analyzing NDVI images, one needs to be careful of clear-cut areas of marked variance as in the right side image compared to the left image, which can be the result of differential treatment over two areas in question, which happens to be the application of fungicide in one and not in the other. Okay, so that was what was creating difference over here in the right side image. Mother Nature doesn't result in clear-cut areas with marked differences in NDVI imagery. The other thing, NDVI imagery using satellite is also prone to weather variance, as in the adjoining slide where area with the cloud coverage appears as red. And I showed how it appeared in one of our images too, that if you're looking at that NDVI image where you have the corresponding to that, we have the cloud coverage, then that image is not going to give you the true picture. So the NDVI image is not actually showing the ground reality, which makes it important to compare the NDVI image of a farm taken at different times to avoid such misinterpretations. The ultimate use of NDVI imagery is to mark the stress areas, as we all know, in farms, and use the differential application of herbicides, fungicides, fertilizers, using these images with appropriate tools to have maximum return on investment on the input costs. And this is trying to show us that how the cost variance can be there. okay, if we are using the NDVI imagery. So we're looking at a field where increase in yield was 3.86 bushels per acre. The cost of application was $15 per acre. So if we are selling wheat at $6.50 per bushel, and you're looking at about, you're getting, 3.86 bushels per acre more, okay, the net profit comes to $10 per acre increase. So for this small area, which is actually 79.34 acres, grower actually made close to $800 net more profit owing to this differential application of the fungicide. Now, single image versus multi-stack NDVI imagery, that is also practiced in many cases, as in the picture. You see the right image over here is the multi-stack. This, as in the pic, it reflects the comparison of single NDVI map taken in a particular year with the multi-stack NDVI image. That is the overlaying of NDVI images for the same area over several years. So if you want to see how the things or how the things have been progressing over the years, then this is what we do, the multi-stacking of NDVI images. It helps to identify variance in particular year compared with the historical NDVI index for the area. All right, so with all this in mind, measuring plant health is just one piece of the puzzle. So keep that in mind, that even despite all these NDVI imagery and all that stuff that we talked about, remember that no matter which algorithm we use to measure plant health, we need to follow up with inspection. And the reason for that is that when we're measuring the plant health, it allows us to see the variability. That is the only thing we're looking at, that there is variability in an area, okay? But what actually is causing that variability, we don't know. It may be the disease, it may be the nutrition is not, plants in that area are not getting the proper nutrition, right? So, but it won't tell you, so what I'm trying to say is that it won't tell you the reason for that variability. Okay, so satellite drone images cannot replace the human altogether, since they cannot tell us the cause of the variability. That's why no matter what method or calculation you use, it is always important to ground truth and take samples before making any final decisions. But it still is very helpful because we are talking of really big farms here. So if you know where the pinpoint problem is, you can straightway go there and see what actually is the reason for this variation. So once the variability is found, put on some boots, go right to the source of the problem and determine the best course of action. You should always get out in the field to ground truth any crop variance you discover. So this, combined with the historical knowledge of the field, will allow you or anyone to determine the best course of action moving forward. So this is basically all from my angle. I wanted to talk basically about what the different algorithms are and show a case study also where I think it was clear how the NDVI values progress with the crop stage. Now, it's all up to you guys if there is anything more that you want to my end. So, anyone asking
The video on that. Hello. Hello.
I can hear you, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So one question I would like to tell, because when I was chatting with Dr. Kaushal and Dr. Bhatt, they pointed out that students are interested in knowing about the precision farming because they want to pursue that area, right? Now, how actually things work over here is that doesn't matter in which area you have the degree, like your degree may be in agriculture, maybe in any other area, you need to get first your credentials evaluated, okay? And we have WES, World Education Service. They do the credential evaluation. So once the credential evaluation is done, they will tell you that if your degree is at par with the Canadian or not, or if you need to do some other credits in order to be at par with the Canadian, okay? So once that is valid, then you can get into any higher studies. So that is the basic thing that you need to get done. As far as the precision farming is concerned, like the way I said, Northlands College, our territory, we are not into the agriculture. We are basically into the forestry industry because we have all the forests, the mining, okay? So mining industry is there, forestry is there, fishing is there. So we are catering to these areas. But if we go down, there is, I think, Lakeland College is there, Cumberland College is there. They have the agriculture courses, but they are diploma type courses. If you want to go specifically towards the precision farming, then there is college, Olds College, write that down, Olds College in Alberta. They specialize in agriculture. They are basic college dealing with variety of agriculture courses. They do have precision farming course, which is 2 years course. And in that they will teach all the technologies and tools that anybody needs to learn. So the first way is go with your credential evaluation using the WES, right? Once you have those credentials evaluated, and they will go course by course evaluation. So as a student, you need to have all the details of each and every course that you have taken in your degree, okay? And they will take a look at course by course evaluation and then tell you where you stand compared to the Canadian degree. So that was the only thing that came to my mind because they had talked about this precision, that some students, they are interested in knowing more about the precision farming. So anything else that I can help you guys?
Any questions? Kindly raise your hands, please. There is a student from MTech W. He actually raised hand. Kindly raise hand, students. Yes. Agriculture Department, UGC. It's Baswar Singh Yes, kindly unmute. Sir, there is a question for you from students. So I am unmute them accordingly. They are raising hands. Is it fine, sir?
I can hear you. You can
Okay,
tell me the
fine.
question.
Just
Hello.
yes, it's Basbar Singh Karki. Please speak.
Yes, firstly, good morning, sir. Good morning, Indermohan, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, my question to you is, since the NDVI value is really really differ due to the clouds and water and other sorts of uh, environmental conditions. So, should we take the image of satellite and drone during the clear environmental conditions, or during the clouds and other sorts of environmental conditions?
Okay, so if you're talking about the NDVI, because I was using the sat images, so we saw the cloud coverage because it is a sat image. But if you're running the drone, in drone, it's not going to matter much because your drone is flying at a much less height. Okay, the maximum height limitation that is dictated over here is 400 feet. But if we look in general for agriculture purposes, the drones are flown between 150 to 260 feet height. Okay, so it won't matter much. That problem you won't see if you are taking imagery using the drones.
That's
Okay,
great.
thank you, sir, for clearing my question. Thank you
You're
very much.
welcome.
That's great, sir. Sir, there is a one more hand raised from Dr. Sunil Kumar. I request Dr. Sunil Kumar to ask your query, please.
Sure.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Good morning, Dr. Sir.
Good morning.
Dr. Sir, I just have only just little queries about these, because the courses started here. It's already started in India. Once we people also working in these areas, or we just have collaborations with the foreign. So what about the cost effective of all these techniques which you are, or which we will be people be implementing in future? So is there anything like anybody can do it, because students, because we have a mixed population all over India, some the students, they cannot like afford some education system is there, so some financial problems are always there. So is there anything like fellowships or anything the students can get, because it will be beneficial for the students? Like if would you like to throw some light on this thing, that how it can be implemented for future, for the future of those like students and other people, if they want to like come in this field, like in this particular area?
Okay, so if you're talking about the scholarships, then those scholarships and bursaries, they will come into picture only if once you have taken admission into any course. Because we are talking about these specialized courses, any student taking these courses after a basic BSc agriculture, right? And like the way I said, the Olds College has precision farming. Okay, their usual expense is, I think, around $10,000 for 2 years. Okay, which I don't see a big amount compared to if you're looking for any other degree. But if anybody's interested, like the way I said, they will have to first get their foot into the door. Once they have that, then there are different bursaries available and scholarships available, and then they will have to look at those.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Nicely
You're
explained everything.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
There is one more query from Mr. Parminder Singh. May I request Parminder Singh to please ask your question, please?
Hello, good morning and good night, sir. My question is that, do you think this type of technology will be beneficial in India, where population is huge, and the technology extension is not there, and farmers are not aware about the technology. So how we can use these type of technologies, extension activity to the Indian farmers, and
Very
how
good
it will
question.
help the Indian farmers?
Yeah, very good question. Very good question. Well, I think the technology is helpful, but not to the extent that it is helpful to us over here, because the land holdings are small, right? So when it comes to spotting the variability, that you can spot over there easily because the farm sizes are small, right? But where it becomes useful is creating those shape files and putting them into the equipment, if we have the equipment, and then going for the differential or what we call using the prescription maps over the fields, that will help in saving the resources rather than uniformly applying fungicide or weedicide at a particular rate. So that's where the application is.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Great, sir. Any queries? Maybe invite, sir, if you have time. So I think it's abundance of knowledge about agriculture land in Canada, applications of camera and methods of agriculture using drone imagery, and practically how you are doing things. That is amazing, sir. Thank you. Really, thank you so much. Now, I hope all the students will get maximum benefit out of it. And I request Dr. Maninder Gill, Head Agriculture Department, to kindly extend vote of thanks to all the participants and our special guest of the webinar, to Dr. Indermohan Ji. Thank you. I request Dr. Maninder Gill.
Very good morning to all of you.
Good morning.
So I feel honored to get this opportunity to propose a vote of thanks for international webinar on agriculture and use of satellite drone imagery, organized by Amritsar Group of Colleges, Amritsar. First of all, I would like to express my heartiest thanks to Honorable Chairman Sir, Advocate Shri Amit Sharma ji, for his guidance and support to organize this event. I express my sincere thanks to Honorable Director Finance, Madam Ragini Sharma ji, for her motivation and encouragement. I express my special thanks to keynote speaker, Dr. Indermohan Rawal, Professor and Head, Science, Northlands College, Saskatchewan, Canada, for his valuable views on a very important topic of the day. So I would like to express my gratitude to Honorable Managing Director, Dr. Rajneesh Arora ji, former Vice Chancellor, Punjab Technical University, Kapurthala, for his guidance. I am also very grateful to respected Principal Sir, Dr. B.K. Banga, for his encouragement and support to organize this event. I express my gratitude to Dr. Sandeep Kar, Registrar, Amritsar Group of Colleges, for his positive contribution. I am very thankful to Madam Deepti Malhotra ji, Dean, UGC courses, for the coordination of the today event. I would like to thank all the respected deans, HODs, faculty members, and all the students for their positive participation in this webinar. And I just want to inform all the participants that we are going to start precision agriculture farming very soon. So this is important information from our side. So I thank you all the participants once again for this wonderful event. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Sir, I hope our students will definitely go with some drone projects in our agriculture field. We have AGC Agro Farm. We will definitely need a help from you, and you will be in touch with us in future also. So thank you for your time. Thank you, sir.
Sure, you're welcome.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
all participants. I think the webinar is over, and we will take your leave now. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Nice to have you guys all.
Thank you.